and welcome. My name's Kella Thornton, and I serve as an instructional designer at the Center for Digital Education at Washington University in St. Louis. And today we're going to talk about rubrics, oh rubrics, how do I love thee? And I think this is a particularly timely subject for today because as we approach the end of the semester here at WashU, and also as we begin to advance towards the next semester, rubrics to me are kind of the holy grail of assessment in terms of both being very clear with your students and your learners about what you're expecting them to do or be able to know, and also for you in order to be able to make your life a heck of a lot easier by being very, very clear about what mastery looks like for a given assignment. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit about two particular types and styles of rubrics, both holistic rubrics and also analytic rubrics. And don't worry if you don't understand the difference just yet. I'll show you. So the first things, in terms of actually being able to create a rubric in Canvas, one thing you're going to want to know is you have to first create an assignment. And so if you don't do that, you won't be able to actually pair a rubric with the assignment. So keep that in mind. But I'm going to kind of use the Julia Child effect, and I'm going to show you what's already being made in the kitchen. And so for today's topic, what I want to look at is two examples. One is first a holistic rubric from Brown University, and they're both for discussion boards, which I think is really good. And two, I want to also look at an analytic rubric that's from the Association of College and University Educators. Both are excellent styles and ways of assessing students, but I want to talk a little bit about how these could help you be both an efficiency monster, but also help your students understand better what you're looking for in their work and in their mastery of your learning objectives. So in example one, when we go to the Brown University example, one of the hallmarks of a holistic rubric is that it just tells you there are 4 points to earn. Here are the four criterion in terms of how you can use each criterion to kind of look at your mastery, and that these particular criteria will help students understand on a sliding scale whether or not they are actually sharing their ideas in a discussion board in a meaningful and purposeful way. So the number 4 post, which is the highest level of achievement that you could get in this example, would integrate multiple viewpoints and weave both class readings and other participant postings into their discussion of the subject. It integrates examples with explanations or analyses and demonstrates awareness of its own limitations or implications. One of the things that I think that's really important that we share with students during this kind of discussion board rubric is just letting them know what the levels of achievement look like. When we say write a good discussion board, but we don't explain what good is, it doesn't necessarily help students achieve what we're really intending for them to do. So I think anytime you can be much more clear and much more concrete in what good looks like, I think that is a win-win for all parties. And it's especially helpful if you have graduate students who are assisting you in the evaluation and assessment of students, because it also shares with them how are you assessing students to kind of get to this final decision that they've either mastered or not yet mastered learning objectives. This particular criteria, as you will see, doesn't necessarily have individualized criterion. It's holistic in how it views the overarching discussion board assessment. So that's hence the name, holistic rubric. The second style of rubric that I want to show you is an analytic rubric. And what makes this Association of College and University Educators rubric an analytic rubric is that there are different criterion for each level of achievement. So you'll see our first criterion is the timely and active participation. Then you'll see thoughtful and complete response to questions. And then finally, thoughtful contributions to the learning community at large. So we know these are the 3 criteria that a student's going to be evaluated on. So an analytic rubric makes it much more precise. It's much more descriptive in how students are going to be assessed on a particular skill or ability or knowledge. And so the other thing that makes this analytic is that the instructor really spells out how can you exceed expectations? How can you meet expectations? How do you approach expectations? And last but not least, where might you not necessarily yet even have the the demonstrated information or skill or ability yet, does not include this, very pivotal information. This is, I think, a particularly helpful rubric when you're working with people who might want to think about bigger scopes of assignments, writing, any kind of analysis that you're looking at as well, I think can be very, very useful. And so, one of the things that I think that is a benefit to an analytic rubric is it really helps students unpack how they may improve, especially if you're going to be doing different types of assignments that are very similar to this. It helps students to continuously strive, and they can even self-assess. And that's something that I think that's really important as well, is that getting that metacognitive ability in students to be able to say, oh, I see myself at this level, but I'd like to be at this level. I think that's something that allows students to be even more engaged within the classroom when they have a really clear sense of how they're being evaluated and how they can grow as learners. So those are two styles of rubrics that I wanted to show and talk a little bit with you about. You might be asking yourself, so how do I get these rubrics if I want to be able to use them in my own courses? And if you go to the Commons in our Canvas section, and you can actually search in the Commons, I would say if you do Olin CDE, that will actually bring up a lot of our great templates that you can actually download and use in your own courses. If you want to be able to use the discussion-based rubrics that I just talked about, I'd click on the CDE module template for discussion-based, and you don't have to download the whole template to get at these. But like I said earlier, you do need to have assignments that are associated to get to these rubrics, and so these will give you the assignments. So there'll be 2 discussion posts, an introduce yourself and a post before class. You can import and download these particular discussions into your Canvas course, and that will also associate the rubrics with them. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as well. And if you want to be able to create your own rubric, one of the things I would kind of remind you of is that when you're creating assignments, after you create the assignment, you can also create rubrics. And so keep in mind that when you create the assignment and you kind of go through all the parameters of what that assignment is, there's also an opportunity for you to be able to create the rubric that is associated with it. So keep that in mind as well. To be able to add a rubric to an assignment that you are going to be sharing with students, if you click on the Add Rubric section and you decide whether or not you want to use a holistic rubric, which just has a ranking of points, or you want to use an analytic rubric where you actually spell that out, you can absolutely do that in the Create Rubric section of Canvas. You'll just go ahead and click your title. You'll list your criterion. In this case, this only has one criterion, right? But you can go ahead and edit that. You can also add criteria. So you have that as well. You can duplicate it, or you can click New Criterion and put something new. So let's say you might be looking at, the efficacy of a thesis statement. So something like that. Once you add that in there, then you're good to go. It does take a little bit of time at the front end of creating these rubrics, but once you've created them, you can use them across courses, and they also allow you to really make very clear to students how you're evaluating them and what you're doing. Hope that was helpful. We look forward to talking more about how we can help you think about really efficient and transparent ways to share how students are being evaluated.